This episode of Distraction is sponsored by my good friends at Omega Bright Wellness. I take Omega Bright's omega-3 and CBD supplements every day, and so does my wife. Shop online at omegabrightwellness.com. This episode is also sponsored by Landmark College. Landmark's summer programs are designed to help high school and college students find their learning strengths and differences. Learn more at landmark.edu/summer. Hello and welcome to Distraction. This is your host, Dr. Ned Hallowell, welcoming you to an unusual episode, a really wonderful episode, in which we will focus on the life of one person. Her name is Jacquelyn Phillips. That's Jacquelyn, and Phillips with 2 L's. I give you the spelling because you can get her book on Amazon. It is a wonderful book, Comfortably Uncomfortable. And the subtitle is The Road to Happiness Isn't Always Paved. Wonderful subtitle. And I want to just ask Jacquelyn to tell us her story, because it's a rich and full story, and she also talks about it in the book in a very true, raw, and honest way. So I really respect, Jacquelyn, the honesty you put into the book and the service it will do to others. So tell us your story.
Well, first of all, that was an amazing introduction, probably the best I've ever had. So thank you for that. The real purpose behind being as honest and real and raw with the book as possible is, after spending a lifetime of lying about everything, I decided that coming clean was the easiest way to live my life. Growing up, I had a very unstable childhood, home insecurity, food insecurity, parental insecurity. And so I learned to cope with a lot of maladaptive behaviors and coping mechanisms that actually weren't fueling me moving forward. They were leaving me behind. So I wasn't living my life to the fullest.
If I can interrupt just for a few details, where did you grow up?
So I'm native to Arizona. I've lived here my entire life.
Okay. And you were born into a family of a mom and a dad?
So I had 2 teenage parents, and they had, issues with drugs and alcohol and low income jobs because of the lack of high school diplomas. They were kids having a kid, and they didn't know what to do, and they didn't have the best role models. And so, for the short amount of time that they were together, it was a lot of fighting and a lot of violence and a lot of instability.
Were you the only child?
I was for a while. When I was 8 years old, I gathered 4 new siblings, and I don't really reference much of them just because they're not a big part of my story. Our parents didn't do a very good job of blending us. They sort of pitted us against each other.
I'm sorry. How did you get 4 new siblings? Your mom and dad got divorced, or?
So my parents separated when I was 5 in kindergarten. And my mother ended up with a man who had 3 children from a previous relationship. And then they decided to blend us all together by adding 1 more because they thought that would be great.
So they had their own biological child?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
So I went from being an only child for 8 years to being the oldest of 5. And it was not a very healthy household. There weren't a lot of boundaries. There wasn't a lot of safe space. I spent a lot of time outside of my house running as a way to just be away. If I was out running, nobody could touch me.
At age 8, you were out running?
Yeah. I spent a lot of time just out on my own. It was a lot for my mom to have 5 kids all at once. So a lot of the time, if you weren't at school, it was, hey, go outside. I'll see you at lunch. Go back outside. I'll see you at dinner. So I didn't really have a great connection with my mom. I didn't have, a family unit that was really helpful as far as raising me. And because I was the oldest, I ended up raising the youngest because my parents were tired and didn't have the energy to do that. Which made it a really unfortunate dynamic because I love my youngest brother to pieces, but I was his mom, not his sister. So we don't have a normal relationship. Growing up in that kind of environment, you learn to hide and lie and cheat and steal to avoid conflict. Because if I could keep everybody happy, there wouldn't be fighting, and fighting made me hurt. So I just would do whatever it took to make everyone happy. Um, that level of people pleasing leaves you feeling really empty. And for a long time, I kind of just felt like a husk of a person because I was constantly giving and giving and giving, but never giving back to
Were
myself
you were
or
you going to
receiving.
school?
I was. So I graduated high school, went right into
Well,
college,
slow
finished the
down for a
first
minute.
12.
How did you do in high school?
I graduated with honors. I was 27th out of 926 students, and I had a 4.1 GPA.
And you had two parents at home who were all but useless.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
my stepdad and I didn't have a relationship, and my mom just sort of existed. It was more about just avoiding her.
wow. And then the four younger siblings?
Yes. So my sister dropped out when she was 16. My other two siblings, I don't know that they graduated high school. I had moved out by then. The youngest one graduated by the skin of his teeth. I'm the only one that has a college degree. I actually have two.
So you left high school in Arizona,
Yes.
and then you went to where for college?
I actually went to a vocational school. At the time, it was called Apollo College, and I got an associate's degree to become a respiratory therapist.
Excellent. Uh-huh.
So I
And you,
I graduated from that
yeah.
and realized that my earning potential was limited because of the degree. So I immediately re-enrolled in school and went to university
Where?
and ASU.
Arizona State
So
University.
yes, go Devils. Um,
Now, is that in
I
what town is that in?
That's in Tempe,
Okay, and the University of Arizona, that's in.
Tucson.
Okay.
Yeah, so I spent some time down in Tucson. I split my time between the two universities, but I did graduate from ASU with a business degree in interdisciplinary studies, and I opened a photography
And your
studio.
grades were okay?
They could have been better. I did great with my first degree because it was associates and it was very specific and
Right.
it was in a topic that I really loved. I loved health and science and the human body. Um, Public high school does not prepare you for the university. And so I was very poorly equipped to manage, my adult life and my academic life because I was still working full time in the hospital. And so I would do a 12-hour night shift and then I'd roll onto campus and do 8 hours on campus. And
Wow.
I wasn't taking care of myself. And it just manifested all of those negative behaviors and attitudes that I had built.
Right, right. Who did you have anyone guiding you? Did you have?
I I had a really good guidance counselor at my university in Tucson, and she was the one that sort of went, you have this dream, but you're never gonna make it. So you need to start looking for a backup plan. And so I had been going to school with the idea of becoming a physician and, being an ER doctor because I love medicine and I love being a clinician and I had really good diagnostic skills.
Yeah.
But my grades just weren't ever going to be there. And I didn't have the funds to chase down the MCAT and to go do residencies. And so, bless her heart, she was brave enough to tell me, hey, this is not your path. You need to figure something else out. And so I kind of floundered for a year. And I just decided, well, I'll go into business. I'll see what happens. My husband and I had gone on a trip.
Oh, you left that detail out. Suddenly,
I-
suddenly you have a husband. Where did he come from?
So I met my husband while I was attending U of A, and he was the one that brought me back to ASU. He is a part of the story, but he and I were both going to school full time. He was getting his MBA. I was finishing my BA. We got married.
Slow down. I want to hear details. How did you meet him?
We met online, and sorry, I didn't know how far we were going to go with this. So we're really digging deep. Most people are only interested in about my breakdown and moving forward. So this is kind of fun. So I met my husband online. I was on spring break, and I was traveling back up to Mesa to see my family. And I told him, I said, just have lunch with me. It may be the best thing that ever happens to you. I was really arrogant because I was really insecure. And so we had a lunch date, and he didn't even confirm it until like 2 hours before we were supposed to meet.
Yeah.
And I give him a lot of grief
But
about
you'd
it.
seen
He
his
said, you know,
photograph online, right?
well, again, this was early 2000s, so online dating isn't what it is now.
Oh.
So, you know, you had maybe one or two pictures,
Okay.
and digital cameras weren't what they were.
Okay.
So we've been married for 16 years.
Okay. So you met him for lunch.
Yeah, we went and had sushi at Mill Avenue. There's a sushi restaurant called Raw.
Yeah.
And I hated sushi. I hated the idea of sushi, but I was like, whatever, this guy seems like he's got it together. Let's give it a shot.
Okay.
And we've been inseparable.
Well, did you like the sushi that day?
I didn't try it.
Oh.
I stuck with the chicken.
You were chicken.
I ordered chicken. I was already putting myself out there. No sense in embarrassing myself and, you know, not enjoying sushi. I do love it now.
Did you like him right away?
Yes, but for the wrong reasons.
Ah, what are the wrong reasons?
I liked him because he checked off a bunch of boxes on a checklist that I had in my head of what I wanted from somebody.
Like what
Not
boxes?
because,
What boxes?
you know, he had a stable job, and like he didn't have an ex, and he didn't have, you know, kids from a previous relationship. He wasn't in the military. He seemed, you know, like a safe, secure bet.
Why are those the wrong reasons?
Because what I wanted was security, and what I needed was a life partner and a friend. And those two. Oh, go ahead.
No, it seems like he had the boxes checked for security, and you had to get to know him better to find out if he could be a life partner and a friend.
But we didn't get to know each other.
Oh.
Like, we had a long distance relationship for like 9 months.
I thought you were both at the University of Arizona.
No. So he was, and I was at U of A, and I moved back up to Mesa from Tucson.
Okay, so you were separated by a few hundred miles.
About 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a couple hundred miles.
Okay.
So we had this long distance relationship, and, you know, it was great because we saw each other for like 36 hours a week. And so we thought we had this amazing thing going because when we were together, it was fireworks and dynamite.
So did the relationship
awesomeness.
become physical right away?
Oh, yeah. He was a one-night stand.
Well,
I didn't wait.
Turned into more than one night.
Yeah. That's a lot of nights after 17 years. Like, we've been married for 16. We've been together for 17.
So you thought he was hot as well?
He was attractive, absolutely.
Okay.
But at the same time, I wasn't focused on looks or friendship or companionship. It was, this will guarantee that I will be okay.
Well, why wouldn't you think that way? You grew up in total insecurity.
Exactly.
So you were looking out for yourself. You were trying to take care of yourself. You needed something.
Out of fear.
Well, so what? A lot of people have become drug addicts out of fear. You tried to get close to a human being out of fear. Seems like a pretty darn good
reason. Because I didn't believe in myself.
Well,
though.
exactly. But at least you said, if I find the right person, maybe I can start.
It took a long time to get to the point of starting.
Hi, this is Sarah Gurton, producer here at Distraction. Last summer, Dr. Hallowell spoke with a mom named Marla, who had tried dozens of therapies for her 17-year-old autistic son and didn't see much improvement until she had him try the omega-3 and CBD supplements from Omega Bright Wellness. Here's part of their conversation.
So now you've got the team, and you're using nutrition, the dog, your daughter, Connection, Vitamin Connect. Is that when you found out about supplements?
Yes, I had the wonderful opportunity to meet Dr. Carol Locke when I was at my church doing a woman's night. And so she asked me to have my son start taking the full broad spectrum, which is a CBD, and to put him on Omega Brights, like it's kind of like a fish oil, right? And so we put my son on it. And let me tell you, as God is my witness, it is a day and night transformation. We had a child who was not looking to pass any of his classes this year. He just finished and closed the school year off last Friday. And for the first time, the joy in that child, like he was expressing himself. He has taken up writing.
Wow.
He went from having all like F's in 4 of his 6 classes to finishing the year with 2 A's, 2 B's, and 2 C's. And that's with emergency distance learning as well. So that's a big transition for anybody who's on the spectrum. But
Right.
he took it in great strides. And it's night and day. And it's amazing because I've had people saying, oh, well, what medication did you put him on? Or what did you do? The teachers are asking. And I said, I did nothing but have him take Omega Bright. And I had him take a full broad spectrum of just 1 pill in the morning and then 1 in the evening of the CBD, the full broad spectrum. And that has changed my son's life.
That's
He's
just
in the community.
so wonderful.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
To learn more about Omega Bright's omega-3 and CBD supplements, go to omegabrightwellness.com. You'll save 20% on your first order with the promo code DISTRACTION. And in this week's Q&A episode, Ned responds to a worried mom who asks about how to get her 17-year-old daughter to be more receptive to structure in her life, and enlists the help of a coach to help her manage her ADHD. Dr. H offers a bunch of approaches this mom can employ, as well as some words of reassurance too, as only Dr. Hallowell can. We hope you'll take a listen. And thank you to the Foreman School in Litchfield, Connecticut for sponsoring our Q&A episodes. All right, now let's get back to Dr. Hallowell's conversation with Jacquelyn Phillips.
So there you are. You have the one night stand and that turns into a relationship.
Yes.
And you like each other.
Yep.
What may I ask, what's his name?
His name is David.
And how much older than you is he?
He is 4 years older.
Okay, and what is his job?
He is a software engineer.
Okay. Do you live together now?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We do live together
Okay.
here in Gilbert, Arizona.
Okay. And first marriage for both of you?
Correct.
Yeah.
And hopefully only, because I don't want to do this over again.
Right, right.
He's stuck with me.
Right. So move forward now.
Okay,
Now
so
you're married to David, and you go back.
I'm married to David.
You go back to college.
Still in college.
You're still in college, yeah.
Still in college. So
Did you have the big wedding?
we did have the big wedding.
Who
and
who came to it?
It was his family, which is all on the East Coast.
And he has
And-
parents who actually function?
They're lovely people. They've had some growing to do, and there's still some dissonances, but they are definitely a more healthy representation than what
And where on the East Coast do they live?
they are in North Carolina.
And did you like them right away?
No. There's still some friction.
Because
Because I think they had a very different idea of what they wanted for their son, and I'm not that. And
did they show their disapproval?
yes.
So did they treat you like trailer park white trash?
No, they very much, they didn't get the real picture of me because I gave them what I thought they wanted.
Oh, well, which was
You
what?
know, I'm giving them the best representation of me. I was quiet and demure, and the house was clean, and the food
Well,
was
so what
made,
could they
and-
possibly not like about you?
Exactly. And so, like, we had this false relationship moving forward for the longest time, and now it's much more amicable, and we are able to see more eye to eye. There's obviously still some underlying tension.
Okay, but so back to the big wedding. Did either of any of your various parents come?
My mother and stepfather were there.
Ah,
My grandmother was there. A lot of my family got together. It was really one of the few big weddings that we've ever had in our family.
wow. Did you reconnect in a positive way?
No.
How did I know that?
It was come on now, it's pretty obvious. It was all social obligation. Looking back on it, we should have just ran off to Jamaica and got married there.
No, I
and saved
think
a bunch of money.
I think it was a wonderfully brave gesture to try to pull it off. I respect you guys for that. I mean, if you don't try to connect, all you got left with is disconnection. So you made an effort. Good for you.
I made the effort.
Yeah,
I made the
good
effort.
for you. Good for you, Jacquelyn.
Well, thanks. Looking back on it, it was a lot of headache and a lot of stress and a lot of fighting.
Well, making up is usually,
Yeah, but it didn't make up
But the night is young. The night is young. You know, you don't accomplish it all in one wedding.
Yeah.
How old are you now, by the way?
I am 38 right now.
Okay, and David is 42?
Yes.
Okay.
He just had his birthday last month.
Okay. So you had the big wedding, you graduated college, you're living together, and you start a career as a photographer?
Yeah. So we're going to have to backtrack just a little. So
Okay.
I was not quite graduated yet when we got married. We had the baby 6 weeks after I graduated with my bachelor's.
Excellent.
So
you
I was
you graduated very pregnant.
Yes, very pregnant. We had our son that January, and then I had started the photography business about the time I got pregnant, which was exciting because that's a lot. I had 2 babies. I was growing a business and I was growing a child. So I had the photography business going, and I hit the market at just the right time because I started right as digital photography came out into the universe.
Great.
I still am a full-time photographer. In addition to the photography, I own a wedding and event venue here in Gilbert, and I wrote a book, and that's why I have the opportunity to talk to you today.
But wait a minute, that was a while ago.
The photography, yes. The venue was about 5 years ago, and the book was almost a year ago.
So, but I'm sorry, a number of years elapsed. You got married in what year?
I got married in 2005.
Okay, so 16 years ago.
Yes.
And you had the baby right away.
January of 2007. So 13 months to the date of our wedding.
Okay. So he's now 15 years old?
He's 14.
He's 14.
And he's huge.
Okay. He's huge. Okay.
I'm the little one at home right now.
Okay. And your business did well.
Yeah, business is going great.
Well, you mentioned a while back in our interview that people want to talk about the crack up. What was the crack up?
Oh, so it's not so much the crack up, is it just, I had built this running train of maladaptive behaviors and negative thought cycles and bad practices. And the train fell off the tracks.
When?
This would be January of 2016.
January of 2016?
Yes.
What happened?
So I had mentioned earlier that, when I met my husband, I met him for the wrong reasons, or at least I pursued him for the wrong reasons. And so we had this really underdeveloped marriage that had a really poor foundation. And, moving forward, I didn't respect or love or appreciate who I was. And so, growing up in an unstable home, I had developed, PTSD and sort of a scorched earth approach to living. Basically, if I could neutralize a threat before it hit me, I would be okay. And so I would burn bridges and I would scorch the earth and hurt everyone around me, trying to insulate myself from harm. You can't pour gasoline and not expect to catch on fire. That's just not how it works. So, my husband wanted to file for divorce.
Why? Why?
Because I cheated on him, and because I was a piece of garbage for a spouse, and I was a miserable person to be around.
Well, other than your cheating on him, why did he want to? Was that it? Was that the reason he wanted a divorce?
I think that was the biggest catalyst behind it. But we had a super dysfunctional relationship, and neither of us were happy. And I was trying to find happiness anywhere I could find it, with anyone that I could find it with, because I didn't think it existed within me.
So you weren't finding it with him?
No.
And how come?
Because I didn't think he loved me. I didn't think he liked me. I thought that he settled for me because I trapped him with a wedding and a baby.
Did you spend time with him? Would you get along, eat dinner together, that sort of thing?
We function as a household. We're still in this dynamic right now where we're trying to figure out, how to build a friendship after being complacent for 17 years. We love each other desperately. And now that I've got my mental health under control and my mannerisms that were so toxic under control, we function really well. but we're not friends. We don't know how to spend time together outside of functioning as a household or being parents. We don't have the same
I'm
friends.
sorry. So he has a good job that he goes to every day and earns
Yep.
a living, right?
Yep.
What does
Correct.
he do again?
He's a software engineer.
Okay. And you have a good job? You run your photography business?
Yes, I have a good job. I run my photography business. I run an event venue. Um,
Okay. And David goes to school? I mean,
no,
what's your son?
Roman goes to school.
What's his
Yeah,
name?
Roman.
Great name. Roman goes to
Thanks.
school, and he's doing okay in school?
I mean, he's a typical teenage boy.
Okay,
There are some
okay.
classes he attunes to better than others. He's actually upstairs right now. Let's see, this is third period, so he's in math right now.
Okay. So did something happen? You said he filed for divorce. What happened? Did you?
It was the infidelity that led him to, starting the proceedings.
Once he filed for divorce, how did you get back from that?
It was a lot of counseling and therapy and a life coach and, getting my depression and my PTSD managed and having to really go back and do the legwork to resolve a lot of the trauma and the mental blocks that I had built for myself.
How much of a role did alcohol or drugs play?
None.
You-
I actually, because my parents abused alcohol and drugs and cigarettes, I wanted nothing to do with any of those ever.
You stayed out of that trap.
Yeah.
Okay.
So instead, I looked to sex and infidelity and other negative behaviors like lying and stealing.
Lying and stealing, what would you steal?
So it's not so much stealing in in like klepto kind of thing, but like, stealing people from their significant others or, just really being a piece of shit person. I would hurt others.
I'm taking issue with that word because there's nothing about you that fits that description. And in your own eyes, obviously you were, because you were doing things that you're
I was hurting people.
okay, but
I shouldn't have been.
well, I would submit it was unintentional. I don't think you were on purpose hurting people.
No, I wasn't actively trying to hurt others.
Okay.
That was just the byproduct of me trying to feel better.
Yeah, trying to
myself.
avoid pain and stay alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's not being, a piece of shit. It's trying to get through this thing called life in one piece. Anyway, you had some kind of epiphany when he filed for divorce. You said, I've got to find a new way of doing life.
It wasn't even just the divorce. It was that I had come to this moment of, either I need to not be here anymore or I need to turn this thing around.
Right.
Because at this point, my health was poor, my marriage was falling apart, I had no money left in my name because I had spent my entire life savings to buy a business and then my car died. Like it felt like the world was collapsing in around me and I just didn't want to be in it anymore. And I sort of had that moment where it was, okay, I either need to just be done with life and not be here anymore, or I need to grab this thing and turn it around and get the ship straight.
So it's almost like you hit bottom. You said,
It is my bottom.
yeah. Only you weren't it wasn't a drug situation. It was just a pattern.
It was a life crisis.
Yeah. Many of you have heard me talk about my love for Landmark College in beautiful Putney, Vermont. Not only because they gave me an honorary degree do I love Landmark College, I love them even before they did that. Because they're the best when it comes to helping college-age students who have learning differences master their weaknesses and develop their strengths. They understand that having conditions like ADHD or dyslexia is a marker of talent, and they take it upon themselves to find the talent while also helping kids shore up on the things that are getting in their way. Landmark summer programs are particularly helpful if you don't want to go for the full college 4-year experience. And their summer programs are designed to help students find their learning strengths and differences. They're for high school students, graduating high school seniors, and for students enrolled in colleges elsewhere. There's also an online option for high school juniors and seniors, and students will learn specific strategies to help them learn in an academic environment. You can register for Landmark's summer programs today. Go to landmark.edu/summer or click the link in our show notes. And how did you see your way to finding better habits?
I got a life coach, and it was, counseling is great, but it felt like church. You go for 1 hour a week, and there's no accountability, and there's nobody to check in on you. And
what did the life coach do?
The life coach was great because he basically made himself available to me as I needed him, and then he held me accountable. So we had meetings like 3 times a week, and I would have to text him and say, "Hey, I just did this homework assignment," or it was a lot like being back in school, but instead of learning, algebra or history, it was learning how to be a healthy adult and function in the world in a productive way, and learning.
That was his job, being a life coach?
Yeah, that's his profession. So he's a personal and professional coach.
So you paid him to do this?
Oh yes, greatly. I ran up that credit card, but in the end, it all worked out.
And how old was he?
I don't know how old Dennis is. I know he's, well into his 50s, possibly 60s.
He's significantly older than
significantly older.
And his name is Venice or Dennis?
No, Dennis.
Dennis. Okay.
Yeah, Dennis Tyrell. He's a phenomenal coach, and he's really good at cutting through the BS. So
finding Dennis was key.
He was insurmountably important in my recovery.
Yeah. It sounds very analogous to a sponsor in AA.
Yeah, and I did the SAA because I was using physical connection as a coping mechanism in my life. I did try SAA, and I wasn't addicted to sex. I was addicted to attention.
Right.
So a lot of that didn't really resonate with me.
Right.
And a lot of it was because my addiction wasn't, trying to replace something. My attention-seeking behaviors were because I didn't value who I was and love myself.
Right. Do you have compassion now for that little girl who was trying to hold the family together?
Oh, very much so. I had a wonderful trauma therapist that did EMDR with me, and we would go back and we would revisit her and hold her hand and talk her through those things and, remove the shame and the blame from her. And, I hold her very dearly in my heart.
So what is life like inside your mind now?
Most days it's really great. Most days it's, I want to help others, and I want to reach out, and I want to connect with people in a way that lifts them up because it lifts me up. And I feel accomplished, and I feel proud of who I am. I'm happy to exist in this space. It feels really good. And, I find joy in smaller things about myself. Like the other day, my eyebrows looked really good, and that made me so happy.
But they still look really good.
Well, thank you. I have physical fitness that I engage in, and I go to the gym, and it's my happy place. And, I feel my happiest running on the treadmill. I feel like I am invincible and unstoppable and powerful and strong and beautiful. And, so I have found those happy moments that fill my heart and make me feel value within myself. It's a really neat place to be. I'm glad I finally got to that destination.
And I don't understand now why you and Dennis, why aren't you friends?
David.
I'm sorry, David.
That's okay. Lots of names. I don't know. I think we're both very lazy. We're very complacent. We have something that functions, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. We come back and we revisit this, I think, biannually, where we go, we just don't know how to do the friendship thing.
Well, why don't you get Dennis on the case?
That's definitely an idea. I think right now our biggest focus is getting the kid through high school.
Oh no, the biggest focus should be getting closer to each other in a meaningful, sustaining way. It sounds like your son is going to is going to do it on without a lot of help. I mean, you've got him to a pretty good place. You want to feed him and clothe him and make sure he stays out of trouble as best you can. But I think the two of you and David, you're
We've
in
got
such a
some
good
work to do.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Yeah.
Who doesn't? And you're a treasure. You've grown from the ashes. It's a wonderful thing. It's very inspiring.
Thank you so much. I love that you mentioned the rising from the ashes. I actually have a phoenix tattooed on the back of my neck.
You do well. There you are. That's you. That Phoenix name is Jacquelyn, and you have such you're brilliant. Are you aware of that?
It sounds egotistical to say it, but I do think that I am different than most people.
Yeah, I mean, no kidding. in a wonderful way.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's true, and you're young, and I just think you're at a point now where you can really begin to construct your future in a very. There'll be plenty of surprises for sure, but where you can really unwrap your gift, as I like to say, instead of focusing on problems, focus on developing talents. And one of your major talents is writing.
Well, thank you. I definitely feel like I'm having my swan moment. I had to be the ugly duckling for a while, but I'm definitely feeling that swan kind of transition.
Yeah. Well, I would try to get Dennis on the case with you and David, and also really commit to developing your career as a writer. You're an absolutely spectacular person, and you have so much to look forward to, and you've done the really hard work you've done. I'm sure all the listeners are cheering right along with me that you can really put it together. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on. Those of you listening, if you want to learn more or dialogue, go to Jacquelyn's website, Grown Up Growing Pains. That's
Yes.
Great. Grown Up Growing Pains. Great name for a website.
Thanks.
Grown Up Growing Pains. And the name of the book is Comfortably Uncomfortable. The Road to Happiness Isn't Always Paved. And I love both the title of your website and the title of your book, Comfortably Uncomfortable. The Road to Happiness Isn't Always Paved, and the website, grownupgrowingpains.com. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh gosh, thank you for having me. This was very different than what I'm used to, and it was delightful.
Well, I'm glad, and you are also delightful and very impressive.
Thank you so much. I very much appreciate your encouragement.
Well, that's our podcast for today. What a remarkable woman, Jacquelyn Phillips. I hope you'll get her book, Comfortably Uncomfortable, and her website, grownupgrowingpains.com. Go to Amazon or click on our show notes. I hope you were as impressed with her as I was. And please continue to reach out with your questions and comments. Write an email or record a voice memo and send it to connect@distractionpodcast.com. Distraction is created by Sounds Great Media. Our producer is the wonderful Sarah Gurton, and I am your host, Dr. Ned Hallowell. Thanks so much for listening. The episode you just heard was sponsored by Omega Bright Wellness, creators of the #1 omega-3 supplement for the past 20 years. Omega Bright supplements are safe, third-party tested, and I take them every day. Shop online at omegabrightwellness.com.